All right. Welcome, everyone, to the August 16th nteract weekly meeting. Just a couple people here today. It's just me and Alex for the moment. I totally should have done an here in the Slack to let everybody know. Oh, well, I can do it. I can do it now. I'm going to literally do it now.
Do it live. Mm-hmm.
Here. Meeting has started. Boop, 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 paste. And then people will trickle in, and then I'll do the awkward, oh, hey, person. Yeah, okay, so we shipped a new release.
Mm-hmm.
LaTeX was broken, like so broken that it broke the whole app. And there are at least a few lessons learned out of this. One, because I never used LaTeX in the notebook except for every now and then when I'm demoing things, I don't notice this. I mean, if we had integration tests, then we could see it. So this is a project that you started, Alex, for integration tests to run against the desktop app, which luckily, technically also would test the Jupyter extension and really anything else that's using that notebook app component. So that's one lesson learned. The other lesson learned out of this is that we probably need an error boundary higher up, because if we can catch the error boundary at the top level app level, we can make a thing that would create the issue. It would report the trace back, and we could do all that. Similar to the one that I put in rich media, but we should put it at the top.
Oh, gotcha.
So I think that's totally workable. Yeah. Oh, I just realized something that's going to happen in exactly 1 minute.
Another meeting?
No, there's going to be a blog post from Netflix coming out today, and I think I scheduled it for 8:38 a.m. Pacific, and it's 8:37. I'm like, I hope Michelle's not editing still, because then it's going to publish in the middle of her writing.
That was a very specific time to publish it, by the way, 8:38.
You know what? Since I don't think anybody read, so there's an Easter egg. It's not an Easter egg. There's a hidden joke in the post,
Nice.
which relates to the fact that you said that 8:38 is a very specific time to post.
Okay.
I just picked a random number, arbitrary number, if you will. So only for people that notice in here, there's this number in there where it talks about so people can pick how much compute they use at Netflix, when they launch a notebook. They can up the memory or increase the CPUs, and we said that it works for 87.3% of all use cases.
It's a super precise calculation.
Yeah, so that's a totally real number, not made up.
Sure, yeah. Sounds very official.
We actually do measure this because we can tell what deviates from the defaults. But we thought if we put a really precise number in there, that people would be like, oh, they really know. They know.
They know what they're doing here.
But things change all the time. And users change and their needs change. So that number would change. So we're like, we could just throw out a number that's close to 90%.
Yeah, that makes sense.
8:38 was upon us.
Hey, Elijah.
Oh, and it's Elijah. Oh, man, Elijah didn't get to hear the secret.
What's the secret?
It's okay. It's in that post. I can say it again, but it'll be funnier. So Elijah already read the article that's coming out. I was just laughing because I realized that I scheduled the post to publish 1 minute ago, and I was like, oh, is it going to publish right now?
But we're just going to watch you refreshing and looking on Twitter.
Yeah. No. So I was talking about, so I said that I published it at 8:38, and Alex was like, that's really specific time. And I was like, well, there's also there's a, not really Easter egg, but a hidden thing in the post, right, where we said that something works for approximately 87.3% of all use cases. That number's totally made up.
That's a very, I like that it was it had a single decimal point of precision, but it still had the somewhere around tilde.
Yeah.
roughly 87.3925.
Yeah, in the ballpark of that.
In the ballpark of that, because it is close to there. That it is close to the real number, but the real number changes because we have new users that come in, and it's not a fixed number. So that's why we were yeah. We actually talked about error boundaries and automating. I wondered about waiting a little bit to see if people showed up later. We had to ship the app again because anybody that used LaTeX anywhere on the page, it would break the entire app. There was a bug with the old way of handling refs, and we didn't have an error boundary around it. And amusingly, we have an error boundary around the outputs, but we didn't have an error boundary around Markdown. So anybody that wrote LaTeX in their Markdown, it would just crash and give a white, like, blank page. So we need to put like an app level one in, and I think we could make it one of those like ones that it could create the body of an issue template to like post. But on top of that, so Alex started something to automate testing of the desktop app, and that's at nteract/desktop integration tests or something, of which no one is following because I made the mistake of putting it on my account and then transferring to nteract. So I'm the only one that's following the project. Amusing. Yeah. And then the richest MIME stuff I'm really happy about that API.
Yeah, Kyle, can you give a little demo of that?
Yeah, you know what? Sure, let's do that. Okay. So the way that Jupyter works in general is that we get these like payloads for anything that's an execution result. So like if you say x equals 2, and then you just type x, the x that comes back, we get the representation of that object, at least in Python. And so typically that'll come back with some text plain or text HTML representation, or even JSON. And there's a lot more. And this is what the Data Explorer is leaning on, because Pandas is reporting this data resource media type. Media type. So we used to call these MIME types. And in fact, that's even what the spec calls them from, I always forget what YANA stands for. I am not a org. Yeah, anyway, so media types. So if you actually look in here, you can find the data resource is right here. Data resource. Like there's tons of media types we would probably never support as outputs. And then plenty of ones where I think it could make sense. So I reworked how our old components work for this, and I made a new one that, here, let's see the code here. It's a component that takes the raw data that you would get from one of these messages back, so execute, result, or display data, and then it picks which one of these is the richest and matches the media type. So if I have this here, so we've got this Spark context. If I add in text HTML and I say that it has bold, ta-da, bold, then out comes the HTML. And this is like a hokey one. This isn't how our current HTML handling works, because we actually create a range and do some other fancy stuff. But this is basically it. So it's like, I'm just gonna, for the sake of doing this, we'll have Data Explorer equals a div. So I would put it in like this. And so if Data Explorer is at the top and it had Data Explorer.media type, oops, default props equals media type, fancy table gee whiz plus JSON. What's the problem? Semicolon. Okay, yeah, so it knows not to pick that one because we don't have anything that in this payload here that includes that media type. And what's great about this, so we have this compound component here, is that we can actually pass props through to those underlying things. So here we've got this like, I made another one here that's this special media type, which takes text special, just totally hokey example. But if I need to pass props to that child, I can just pass it directly. So special big here, it's going to render this, but it's going to also use this this big here to decide whether it does this H1 or a paragraph. So up here, this is the special that uses big. This is the special that doesn't have the big set, which means that externally from it, you know, if you're doing something else that encapsulates state, so like here's this fancy table. I did fancy table, but now it really is a table, which takes a color prop. Oh, I should make a default color. I guess it doesn't really matter, but if I make the color be green, we'll be good. So I can adjust this color, and it changes how that output renders. But I get to control the state on the outside and just pass the prop through to the component used. Yeah, that's it. That's the rich media component. I guess it's worth saying like why we did this way. So if I
it'd definitely be good to mention what the old one looked like, because this new interface is just so much more clear, and I think will be a lot easier to work with, especially for newer folks.
Yeah. So the way that we've done this before is we had this display component. You pass outputs in directly, and you have to have your outputs in a particular format, which means that if you need to change anything about how this behaves, you have to, let's see, boop, boop, boop. You have to pass in all these props for what you want to do, and if it's expanded or if it's hidden, and there's all these weird things that don't make sense for all types of outputs. And then you go into display, you're like, oh, okay, great. So then there's this output thing, and I have to modify what the props are for that. And outputs is an output. I go back and I look at output, and I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm going to case off each of the outputs. And then finally I get to basically this same component, the one that I showed earlier. And then we got richest mime, and then it'll render that there. So, and then you go into richest mime, which is the same functionality as this one that I showed before, or that I showed in the components thing. You would again be changing props here. So like for the data explorer, for us to do on metadata change, we have to pass it through each and every one of these, when really we just want to pass the prop to the one component that needs it. So we're making them more compound so we can pass directly to the data explorer as is. And that's the goal with this component. So we're trying to walk away from these APIs that are very prop drilling heavy, where we have to change a prop on all these parent components before finally getting to what we really want to change. Yeah, so less prop drilling, more compositional, more composable components.
That's lovely.
Yeah, which means we should be able to get to the metadata for Data Explorer soon.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh, we could have jammed it through, admittedly, like if we wanted to rush it through, be like, okay, we're just going to pass this prop through, and we would have done all the changes. But I was like, I just want to refactor this. So we made them as new components too, so that we don't have to break existing uses of the library. Yeah, I don't have a good delineation on where some of these components belong. Like namespace wise, I put this in nteract presentational components, which really just means this thing doesn't have redux less than it has state or anything. And we need some better naming for the components we use, and I'm not sure they used to all be in core, but core became too big. So yeah.
Yeah. Is anyone else using these components besides nteract?
Hydrogen, which is an nteract project, so you know. I mean,
I was just trying to get over to the link to go and you post that somewhere? Could you post that to me?
I'm gonna post it here and here.
So many places. There we go.
Okay.
Cool. I just wanted to take a look at it, but not real time. I'll take a look at it later.
Yeah. And then so in my PR, I think I mentioned some of the other. So when I was doing this, my original intention was largely that I wanted to refactor outputs to also handle this data explorer issue where we're like inside of, like we have overflow y scroll somehow set, even if it's set to expanded where we have scroll, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, there's too many styles that are conflicting there. And I was like, I just want to simplify these as much as possible. So like I made GIFs for Data Explorer yesterday, and I had to hack in to make it just look beautiful. And it's really fun because now Data Explorer all of a sudden takes up as much space as it really needs.
Oh no, I literally do the same thing. Where I go in and change the element and change the size of the element, and I'm like, and then I realize that there's some data update that I didn't make, and I just don't do it because then I'd have to go back and like manually select the element and change the element. So yeah.
Yeah.
And I have done that for so many different applications across the course of my life. Like there are so many lie GIFs out there that I have, like that I put out. Or just the GIF that like where you use it because you're an expert, and so somebody looking at it like, wow, this is super powerful, and they have no idea how to use it. So anyway, I think that's great.
It's definitely a marketing thing.
Now, Kyle, the conference is next week.
Yeah, JupyterCon is next week.
Is there anything? Is there anything we expect out of this? What is it? What is that? They're like the goals of. Yeah,
so,
I mean, what?
At least for me, I want to build other partnerships to work with people on these components and apps, and find ways in which we can collaborate and share ideas kind of across these different notebook environments, but all kind of within the same Jupyter ecosystem. With all the trade-offs that, all the pain and goodness that comes from it.
Sure.
The workshop.
Do you have anybody in mind? I mean, is there anyone local that we're sort of talking to? Or I mean, I'm just thinking about if there's a counterpart to what I do anywhere around here. It would be great to chat more with somebody like that.
Yeah. So recently I went to Bloomberg's event that they held in San Francisco last week, I think. So they really like a bunch of the components that we're making, and they're realizing that they need different kinds of interfaces for different people. Like they can't just put people in one like IDE and expect them to get everything they need. Excuse me, especially if they're sharing with other analysts.
Yeah.
And sometimes, they want to have like a static page that's not backed by compute, but still interactive. And I think that's where, and so like I showed them the Data Explorer and talked about, the utility of it. And they were like, oh, this is great. And there were people that, want it to be hooked up to compute. And we were like, it kind of is great because it works offline. We have all the data there, and people can work with it. And it's not to say that we can't also do the compute. The great thing is that the notebook can show multiple kinds of output. Like we have support for Data Light directly. Yeah, I think we should link up more people. Yeah, so we will see. Oh yeah, so I was going to talk about my workshop. So I'm giving a workshop next week on how to build Jupyter front ends. And I'm basically just going to I'm going to use these components to teach the stuff. So like this rich media component, like on purpose was put together so that, to refactor our stuff, but at the same time, I want to teach people like, this is how Jupyter is doing it. It's not magic by any means. Like it's this JSON object that has these properties, and then we look at the properties and then we render based on what we see. And it means that, if you have a React element that can visualize a particular media type, you stick it in the app and then that's how it renders it. And so I think, once people can see some of that power, they'll realize it. I'm going to make people really excited by the idea of building these things without realizing all the maintenance burden that comes with trying to actually do it. But hopefully we'll just turn them into aspiring contributors, and then, real contributors. They'll be ready to go and build on this stuff and share ideas. I think all these apps are really hard because the people that work on them typically aren't the ones using them. Like, we have way more, we're always going to have more users than we do have people working on this stuff. So I can't like walk down the street without somebody knowing about Jupyter notebooks. Like, someone was talking about how they were using it at like a kid's birthday party. I'm like, oh yeah. I was like, I can tell you a few things about how we run ours. Oh, great. Yeah, I really need to know that. Oh, okay. Oh, wow, you seem to really know this stuff. Yep.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
I'm familiar. Anyway.
So that's a workshop, Kyle, that you're doing at JupyterCon?
At JupyterCon, yep.
Nice. Is there going to be anybody specifically that'll be showing off the Data Explorer?
Michelle probably will. Michelle's giving a keynote.
Nice. Oh, awesome.
And then M might, because M has like a rich outputs talk, so she'll be talking about those. But I don't know the full content of her talk, so could be. We need a full Data Explorer talk. I think we need to go back in time, back when the JupyterCon proposals were being put together. Elijah was not even working on Data Explorer, so Data Explorer is really awesome, and it's so new that it's like, yeah, it would be quite a thing to see.
Yeah, I think it'll be it's one of those things that I think will really get people interested in Interact in general. Just because there's nothing like that in Jupyter and Jupyter Lab at the moment. So
yeah,
definitely be good to get some eyes on that, I think.
I think what I'd really like to see is I want to get some other kernel developers to use the Data Explorer format and to output the format that we use. I mean, the main reason that we were putting it together was to help the Scala developers who wished for more. Like, the Python people get to have all the fun. Why is that, kind of thing? Like, they've got all their plotting libraries. There's actually a Vega library for Scala that I'm a part of, which is called Vegas. But at the same time, you still have to like write your plotting code, and for a lot of people, that's not what they want to do.
Sure.
And yeah, so we really need people with a good foundation on some of those other kernels. And I don't know how we'll engage with them, but we definitely need to. Yeah. Maybe we need to.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Maybe we need to put out a blog post basically saying, hey, we want to get Data Explorer and more things. I mean, we could put it in an issue too, but like, basically it's like we could say we want to target these languages, and put up our list to checkbox and like help us help you get this working,
right,
kind of thing.
I would think that the RStudio people would be super interested in getting this in. I don't know which data frame package in particular, but I would imagine that they would be quite interested.
We could always talk to them. I'd be intrigued to see. So RStudio uses they work directly against R to run code, and they don't use the same kind of format for this stuff. Like, their messaging is much different.
Okay.
In some cases, it's because it's like, I mean, it's tightly integrated, which is great because then they get to build this like really powerful IDE, which is why they can like explore what data is available, but is also what's made it hard for at least for us originally, because of how. So I say us, I'm talking about Netflix. how we would connect our Spark, which at Netflix you can like spawn, if you want to connect to a Spark cluster with 2.0 or 2.2 or 1.6, you should be able to do that. And the way our studio works, you basically need all those environment variables set at the start before you can do it, because they're so tightly integrated that, you know, they want, you know, their menus to come up for the Spark stuff. And it's true. It's just, yeah, I really want to make a lot of that stuff easier. I think even in our studio, it would be great if there was flexibility around their protocols to be able to be like, oh, hey, this is the Spark that I'm connected to, you know, and give them enough that they can generate the menus, whatever they need to. Anyway, yeah, it would be really cool if we had someone that could be an advocate with the R folks. Yeah. I put this out there because I know it's not going to be me, and this is my
sure
passive leadership. Gosh, it would be
wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, but I think it's probably easy enough to get to talk to the R kernel developers directly.
Like the IR kernel one?
IR kernel, yeah. And show them, because I think they could probably put it together from the data frame in not too much time. It's not too crazy. If a format in pandas is basically already written code that they can crib from, so
right, maybe
it's similar. I don't know. I mean, it's basically like do it to JSON, but orient on the rows, and then infer the types and include that schema. Oh, so I guess I should ask, how far did your pandas PR go? Have you started that PR?
Oh yeah, I haven't submitted it yet. I was still working on tests, and that was the last. I think like right after the sprints, I spent a little bit more time on getting some of the tests to work with it. Because at the moment it's not. I didn't make it like an extra configuration option, which maybe that's the better way to go. But yeah, so at the moment I just need to kind of finish the tests and then send it off.
Okay, yeah, because you could always make the PR and ask for help on decisions, and
yeah, that's true.
Motivations and stuff. Because maybe they'll be like, this is a waste of time, don't spend any more time on it.
Yeah,
I think they'll say that, but
probably not. But yeah, no, that's a good idea, because they certainly might be a bit more opinionated about wanting it to be a specific configuration option you have to set.
Yeah. Oh, I have one more thing I can demo, as long as we're not out of time. We're basically out of time. I'll demo it anyways.
The DX?
It is the DX thing, which is totally done really quickly. Okay. Import DX. Load sample. So I did this because I got tired of trying to load the same happy data frame. So regular data frame, but I can also do dx.dx of df. Usually you would just, I wanted to make dx the function, but because of how Python modules work, I can't like export a function as the default, like import dx and then just use it as I don't think you can override a module to be a function. I've clearly been in JavaScript for too long. So it's from dx, import dx, load sample. This is probably the way that it should be done. So if you look under the hood, so of course this is the Data Explorer. I'm gonna move this window so I can see. I just love the fact that these are grouped. Like as soon as I saw that, I was like, this is too awesome, Elijah. It's too good.
It is awesome.
So let me look at this. Let's look at the code for DX. So I'm now sending over metadata, which means that the Data Explorer is getting this metadata for the sampled thing, which means that if we want to send stuff over for data resource, I've made it really easy. And I think what we'll probably end up doing, right? So I expect like we'd have keyboard args for all this stuff. Actually here, I'm going to copy. This is some lazy setup here. Whoop. Oh, look at that. I rewrote all the code. Okay. So it uses the table schema stuff, but it passes the metadata through on the right key, which is great because if I do dx of df and I say sampled equals true, this is like the only metadata we accept right now. Oh, come now. Import pandas as PD. Cool. So it shows this data is sampled. And if I switch that to false, well, that goes away. Easy peasy. Yeah, and so ideally, if we wanted to be like mode equals bar, and somebody wanted to do it from Python, this was that question I think Elijah raised that came from like a demoing it to some data sciencey folks here. They were like, "Oh, is there a way we could like specify it, but from the Python side?" And I think we could do that here.
Cool.
And maybe there's some way that we would do this that's not just like a pile of keyword args, but maybe we'd even, because I feel like the full state tree, I don't know what it looks like. Actually, maybe you can tell me, Elijah. What does the state look like? Because you're doing some this.setState stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've got mode, and then you've got the metric 1 and the metric 2 and the dim and all of that stuff. So metric 1, you would say would be like trust or GDP or whatever, standard error. You pick the worst one. And so metric 1 is the only one that's important for a bar chart, right? So you wouldn't even define a metric 2 unless you wanted to have a width, like if you wanted those bars to have
I see, yeah.
And then dim 1, and dim 1 would be your grouping, so your group by region. And what else? Or dim 1, I guess in that case would probably be color, and so dim 2 would be your grouping. I'm not sure. And then there's more specific ones. So there's like network type and area type, and I'm trying to think about. Most of it's generic, the metrics, and so like there's a metric 1, a metric 2, and a metric 3, and just in different views they apply to different channels. So like in scatterplot, metric 1 is the x-axis, and metric 2 is the y-axis, but in the bar chart, metric 1 is the height, and metric 2 is the width of the bars. So things like that are going on under the hood. The thing that is exciting to me is that, you know, if we could get to a point where they could actually just send a recipe for a semiotic network frame or something like that.
From the Python side?
Yeah, I mean, if we could, you know, I mean, semiotics just all configuration under there anyway, so you could conceivably have them take. Python's still so new to me that I get distracted by watching people type it, and I'm like, wow.
Sorry. I was
no, that's all right. That's
I'm
all right.
Listening to you and trying to think of like what could
absolutely.
an API look like.
So I mean, there's like doing what you're doing now, which is setting these options and then spreading them, which makes a lot of sense. Like we just expose what the actual component is rendering. But then there's another one where you could be like mode equals and an XY frame, network frame, and ordinal frame, right? That they're frames that the actual semiotic frames under the hood. And from those, then you could expect that those options were just spread from the semiotic configuration.
Yeah.
Most of which accept strings. So mostly we're not even talking about trying to understand how somebody would, I mean, you wouldn't give them the capacity to build something more complicated, because even though it takes functions, I don't know how you translate Python functions to JavaScript functions. That seems nuts.
Yeah, I think we wouldn't end up having it. We wouldn't be able to do any.
Even without doing that, you'd already get access to a huge amount of functionality.
Yeah. We've got some ways that we can do two-way bindings, but it's a little bit crazy. We'll keep getting these simpler things done.
Yeah.
VDOM actually has a new setup for handling click events. So VDOM has a very React-like API. Actually, let's do this from VDOM import star. You'd never do this in Python. You never import star, but I'll do it. Div. Oops. H1. layout. P, a bunch of text, space, times 40, control enter. Okay, there we go. So you can like compose functions, and it's actually just returning a big JSON blob for, this is all, it's just, this basically gets converted into React, but it's like serialized and then, gets deserialized back into like a React kind of thing. And this can take, input, but it doesn't do anything with it yet. We haven't really finished exploring that, but we do want to make it so you could basically make these like dynamic forms that you could put stuff into, similar to the widgets. The IPython has these other widgets, but they're built on Backbone.
How do you send props?
Oh, how do you send props? Yeah, we do it in a Python way, but you have to write, you have to break away from Python. I think maybe we translate it. I can't remember. I'll just make this. Oh no, I have to do my favorite color, deep pink. There we go. And then because we can do display updates, so I'm going to call this layout equals. So I can do display layout update equals true. No, not up. Display ID equals true. That's what I need. Yeah. There we go. Move that. There we go. Green. Boop. And I just updated this one because I displayed this element, got a handle to it, and then I just, and React does the updates. It's like super slick. Yeah. I forgot what the question was. I got too distracted trying to write the code for it.
I asked about sending props, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we can, I can't think of another prop that I would pass.
That's right.
If it's just as long as it's JSONable, because we can't pass functions because they need nothing on the Python side. Up to like Grant is actually working on that now to make it more interactive. Color white. Boop. Well, this is the style prop. That seems like the easiest one for you to pass. You just pass it through, and there it is. So padding 20 pixels looks good. Bunch of text times 40. Boop. Yar. Boop. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So what I was thinking there was that so this whole VDOM library only accepts basic React elements. Like on the other side, like when it ends up in JavaScript, I mean, we're basically looking at React.create element tag name children props. I'm missing up which one's which, right? Props children, right? And then we read from the JSON to create it. But it has to be a literal string. Right. But we could whitelist some React elements. So basically, if there was some way for us to send over, if we were like React.create element, and then we passed in XY frame, like if we had the props for it and we knew how to like deserialize from what they sent over from the Python side or from whatever language, then we could render it here. Like as long as we know what that namespace means, like if they had this as XY frame, we would like translate the call into, actually I'm gonna write it like this. So like if they said that they wanted this one, let's say, then we would know that it would translate over to the XY frame from from semiotic.
I mean, the challenge, I think that really works. And what it does is, I mean, if people want to start using that within, in that way, the more ways that they use semiotic, the better. The reason why the data frame thing is more convenient is because we've already pulled in data and we've already started to process the data.
Yep.
But I assume that people who are working in pandas know how to get data into some kind of format that they could pass through here. I worry about like the idea of rebuilding all of React in Python, but why not?
Oh, don't worry, we've already done that. So here it is.
Why not?
It didn't.
Yeah, I mean that's that it's an interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way to approach it, and I think it could work.
Yeah, and amusingly, I can do this. Oh no, I have to. Oh, because it would display multiple. Like, yeah. Oh, never mind. I thought I could combine them. You can combine things on display, because if I do display df df df, I'm actually going to display that data frame 3 times. There's another one. And there's another one.
Wow.
Which means that if they really just wanted to, like if they had basically their own header, like so if I do dx of df and I did actually display h1 tab Venus data set, boop, then they effectively have a title that matches it, but it's up to them how they want to style it, and then we like leave control over to them. Yeah, which means they can update that willy-nilly, but it's separate from this output. There's like 2 outputs here: the output here, which is the header, and then the output here, which is the data explorer. So I think that's what's going to be really funny. So it's funny talking about this stuff because to the user, the output is the data explorer, and I try to talk about it that way when in reality, the output is JSON blob inside the notebook.
Right.
It's funny stuff. Cool. So I should end because we're running out of time on our free plan for Zoom. So thanks, everyone.
This wouldn't be a meeting if you didn't mention the free Zoom plan.
It's sponsored by Zoom.
Yeah.
Thanks, Zoom.
All right, Kyle.
See you guys later.